Good morning, everyone. Look, this morning I wanted to have a quick chat about cancer because many of you have seen the video with Joy last week, and it's one of those things that natural therapies can really support the whole medical process going through cancer. Obviously, what people need to do, chemo, radiation, lumpectomies, that sort of thing is really important, especially for their peace of mind. Once someone knows they've got cancer, there's all sorts of fears and stresses and things, as well as family obligations. So people just feel like they need to get this sorted as quickly as possible. But some people just don't cope very well with medical intervention, and the less medical intervention is just better if they're not going to end up having any quality of life afterwards, getting things like chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, just lots of pain afterwards. So I thought I'd chat a little bit about some of my thoughts on cancer, because there is things you can do for a start. Like, I've mentioned the Brock shots before. So things like sulforaphane, check that out on YouTube. There are videos about all of the research that's been done on sulforaphane with people in all sorts of stages of cancers, helping to reduce the size of the tumours and helping with longevity long term, regardless of changes of diet, exercise, all sorts of things. So once again, I would always recommend, there's other products as well, like Sulfuraclear from Metagenics, which is probably available around the world. Things like Enduracell Bioactive, which is available from places like it's available online. So those are the sort of products that have oodles of sulforaphane in. And of course, getting your green leafies in. So things like your broccoli, having it both raw and cooked. Things like cauliflowers and wasabis are really high in sulforaphane. So, sulforaphane thing. One of my favourite things that I've been using for a long, long time, that I've mentioned a few times, is the zeolite. So these are a couple of products, and I'll put the website down below. So basically, when you're buying a zeolite, you need to buy one that's been cleansed. And the way they do that is by heating it to 900 degrees. So unless they're doing that, they're not releasing all of the... Because in nature, zeolite is a crystal that lives in the ground, and basically it sops up toxins. So when it's not cleansed properly, you're taking zeolite, and it doesn't matter whether it's organic. If it's organic and it hasn't been cleansed, just means it's been pulled out of the ground. It doesn't mean that it doesn't have anything toxic in it. It just means it hasn't had anything added to it, which is sort of a scary thing. But this is the one I'm using these days, and it muscle tests up brilliantly for people. And I use it, of course, with things like chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, issues where people are having ADD, ADHD, lots of autism sort of spectrum can be linked in with certain viruses and heavy metals. So that's a really good thing to have those kiddly diddlies on as well. Another thing that we can build up to throughout our life, over here in Australia, we now have something called the omega-3 the omega-3 index blood test. So I'm sure you can get that sort of thing online. In Australia, it's about $70, no big deal. And basically, it's the sort of thing that it's about getting those good quality fish in your life. So eating your 2 to 3 pieces of oily fish per week. So Dr. Bill Higgins, who's done about 40 years of research into omegas, it's all about the dose. So we know that in Australia and America, for example, we only have about 3 to 4% of our cell membranes having omega-3s. So about 3 to 4% of our cell membranes are omega-3s on average. People who have no seafood whatsoever are often down around 2%, and people who really make an effort, 2+ pieces, are the ones, and probably with fish oil. So things like, once again, when you're buying fish oils, you get what you pay for. So you've got to get the ultra clean ones, the ones that have been... They list what they have, and what you don't want to do is just stick to the government regulations for heavy metals, because it's not their priority, low levels of heavy metals in supplements. So we need to get fish oil products that actually have high levels of EPA, which is anti-inflammatory, DHA, which regenerates the brain, and then make sure they're ultra clean. Really, really important, because otherwise you're just taking in, once again, more heavy metals from the oceans. So that's really important. But what they found was that when we have about 8% of our cell membranes being omega-3s, we have 30% less risk of everything. So they found over 40 years that there's less risk of heart disease and cancers and diabetes and dementia and all sorts of things. So not just cardiac disease, which is why the research first started back 40 plus years ago. And there's other things like SPM, so that's a pain mediating product. So these are sort of a new brand of supplements out there. So specialized pro-resolving mediators, that's the sort of thing to look up. This just happens to be a Metagenics product, but that sort of thing will be getting out on the market over the next few years. And it's sort of like supercharged. So it's supercharged for people in a heightened pain state. And of course, what we know about cancer is that it grows in inflammatory parts of our body, areas that are really inflamed and areas that are very acidic. So cancer loves sweet, acidic, toxic areas of our body. So that's just something to keep in mind. So they help to supercharge things as well. Keeping the body alkaline is really important, which is why our green leafy veggies are so important. It's why we've got to get in plenty of purified diluted water, water every day, because if we're not drinking plenty of purified water and we're drinking plenty of coffee and soft drinks and all sorts of things, that's not great. We're going to be becoming more and more acidic and toxic and inflamed. So get in the water. Herbal teas are great, so herbal teas are fantastic. You can count them in your water intake and make sure you're having plenty. Really, you need to be thinking veggies. What they would like to do, the medical side of things rather than the government side of things, they'd love to get us eating up to 13 veggies a day. But of course, people just can't choose to do that in a sensible way. So having something in your world. So I always like, sort of calcium, magnesium, potassium sort of combinations as well. Things like G-Tox and GI Restore, and there's all sorts of things out there that help to alkalize your body. Alkalinity, really important. Vitamin C, incredible. So what vitamin C does, it's both a fat-soluble and a water-soluble antioxidant. So what that means is it gets more and more toxins out of both your bloodstream as well as your fat tissue. So vitamin C is one of those things that as human beings we can't create ourselves. Monkeys can, we can't. So whatever that gene is, we lost it. So basically vitamin C is something that when we are, like you can hear at the moment, we've had a lot of late nights with lots of stuff going on at the moment. So, and we're just burning the candle at both ends in our family at the moment. So, I know that by hanging around hospitals, I need to really up my intake of things to keep me on the straight and narrow over the next few months. So yeah, vitamin C is amazing, and obviously people who can get vitamin C drips and that sort of thing, it can really help to supercharge the immune system so that it can boost and start fighting those cancer cells. I didn't say, but for every molecule of zeolite we take, it can kill a molecule of cancer cells. So zeolite is a really negatively charged mineral. Toxins like lead, mercury, cadmium, aluminium, viral particles, they're all really positively charged. And cancer cells are negatively charged. So basically the zeolite only leaves the body once it's neutral. So it sort of ping-pongs back from negative to positive to negative to positive to negative to positive until it's neutral. And that's when we pee and poop it out. So zeolite's amazing as both a preventative and a just working in, also helping to pull the chemo and radiation out once it's done its job so that those toxins aren't left in the body to disturb our bone and our muscle mass and our nerves and our mitochondrial action, all sorts of things like that. So they're the sorts of things that I was sort of thinking when I was getting my mind together about cancer this morning. But the other thing is that a lot of people, of course, once they've had lumpectomies and mastectomies and all sorts of operations, they're just in pain afterwards. So having really good things like activated turmeric products, so you've heard of Cumarone, the Cumaroids, basically those sort of things, Cyactive, really good pain, so they help to bring whole body inflammation down. They're really powerful. And then also to help to regenerate the tissue afterwards, things like the Stem Enhance Ultra. So for every 2 capsules we release between 4 and 10 million stem cells into the bloodstream within 40 minutes. So that's sort of it in a bit of a nutshell. Oh, don't forget your probiotics. It's sort of like a multivitamin these days. If you think about 3 basic things, probiotics, multivitamins, and fish oils, those 3 things can just really help to sort out a lot of our issues. But basically, when you're thinking cancer, Think alkaline, think getting your sugar out of your diet. Everyone knows that sugar feeds cancer cells because it loves a sweet, toxic environment. Got to cut out those starchy carbs, you know, the white flours, the white sugars, anything made with those. They're just creating an environment that's just really toxic for our systems. So have a great day, have a great weekend. It's Friday, isn't it? We've had all this smoke in Australia, well, in southeast Queensland for the last 2-3 weeks now. And, you know, and I feel like when we painted our house and didn't use non-toxic paint, the next time we did. So that's sort of how my neck throat's been feeling for the last fortnight. It's just delightful. The poor old firefighters, how the heck do they do it? You know, amen to the firefighters. They're just phenomenal human beings. Anyway, have a great weekend. Bye.